Nobody likes bitter coffee, and sometimes the reasons aren't clear. I mean, yesterday it tasted good, but today it's rough. Maybe I need a more expensive tamp. You don't need another tamp. Today we are looking at the top 3 reasons why your espresso may be tasting so bitter, and what you can do at home or in your cafe to fix it. Hey, my name is Josh and I'm here at the Coffee Science and Education Centre, and we're looking at bitterness. Now, what is bitterness? Sometimes people get the ideas between acidity and bitterness confused. Now, if we look at the SCA flavour wheel, we can see flavour notes that sit with bitterness like ashy, smoky roast, or even hoppy like beer. But then on the opposite side of the flavour wheel, we see all our acid flavours. What do I mean by these sort of acid flavours? Think about sucking on a lemon or a lime or even a dry wine. Those things are acidic. When we're talking bitterness, we're thinking burnt toast, we're thinking chocolate, that dark 70%, get it into your sort of bitterness bite. So now we're going to look at how to bring these things back in a balance between acid, bitterness, and sugar. Now with that out of the way, let's look at those top 3 reasons. The first one, cleaning. Yeah, we're going to get the bad stuff out of the way first. There's probably a high chance that your machine isn't clean. There's a reason why your coffee tastes so good at the very start of the day and not so much at the end of the day. What do I mean by this? Well, we know that when you pour a lot of coffee inside the machine, basically you're getting a build-up of coffee oils. It gets on the group handle, it gets on your basket, it gets on your shower screen, and that is tainting all your coffee extraction with that really dark flavour and sometimes quite metallic taste. So I'm happy to say the fix is really easy. Just clean your machine. If you hourly clean your machine by using your blind filter, locking it up and just running water through and then releasing it 10 seconds, 3 times each on every group head, your coffee will always taste like a winner. At the end of the day, you want to use espresso cleaner. Get that in at least once and then do a couple clean flushes afterwards. Make sure you scrub all the shower screens, the baskets and the handle, and your coffee will love you. But if you're at home, you're not punching out hundreds of coffees at a time. So at least daily, do the clean water back flush. Use that handle, lock it up, run that hot water through. Second reason, we're talking over extraction. Now, extraction can pull things out of whack and you need to be on top of this. Basically, if you over extract your coffee, you're going to get that bitterness flavour. What do I mean? Well, if you use too little coffee in your basket and you don't adjust your water recipe to match, basically, the amount of water flowing over every particle of coffee will draw more out of the coffee than you really want. Then there's also the case of your coffee might be too fine. So now your water is sitting too long around every particle of coffee within the basket. Again, over extraction. So again, adjust the grind size and then you'll get that better flavour. We're always going back to a recipe. What is a recipe? What is the recipe you want for your coffee? Basically, talk to your roaster and then work it out in your machine. The end result is a recipe is just a benchmark. Baristas who know their stuff are always tweaking the recipe to make sure they get the best flavour out of their coffee for that day, for that coffee, with their machine. And third reason, we're talking about dark roast coffee. Now, where does dark roast coffee come into this whole spectrum of coffee that we like to enjoy? Well, dark roast coffee, when you go darker, you quite often start accentuating notes like smokiness, roasty, chocolate, nuts. All these sorts of flavors is where bitterness lies in the spectrum of flavor in coffee. Now, dark roast coffee is not a bad thing. There's a whole segment of our society that loves dark roast coffee. And the reason being is it has good cut through. It's smooth, it's creamy. Baristas love working with it because it's really, really tolerable on bar. It doesn't change too much. You know what you're gonna get. But then with dark roast coffee, don't try and then turn it into a light roast coffee. It's not designed that way. And what do I mean by that? Is when you have it as a black coffee, that black coffee can sometimes be too bitter, too sharp, and just really doesn't bring all those light notes to flavor because it's dark. So then what's the fix? Well, there's a couple things you can do. Try light roast coffee. It can't be all things to all people. Second thing you can do is you can actually reduce your extraction. Start pulling it back closer towards a ristretto style recipe. Every time you pour a coffee, the first dark parts that are coming out are all your solubles that dissolve easily in water. So if you reduce that extraction, you'll get that better flavor you're looking for. Then there's also another tip that I can give you. If your machine comes with the ability to reduce its temperature, that can save your dark roasted coffee. It's a relationship, you're committed, you still want to save it. Let's work with it. Basically, if you drop that brew temperature, it's actually going to pull less out of the coffee slower. Basically, that's a good thing for your coffee. If you overbrew your tea at home or if you overbrew your coffee, you'll get really strong, bitter flavors. If you reduce that temperature, that whole process is slower, and therefore your end product is a lot more tastier. There's actually one little small tip I can give you right at the end. Just don't tell anyone I told you. But basically, you can drop just a little bit of salt in that coffee and completely changes the flavor. But that's just for you to try at home. So tell me in the comments, what are your tips and tricks of getting around espresso extraction and over extraction? What do you do that might be a little bit different to what I'm doing on bar to make sure that coffee is always tasting good? If you've got new tips and tricks, I'm definitely interested in hearing, and I read all the comments and we definitely do comment back. So let us know what your tips and tricks are. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.